A year ago, a change occurred. December 2024. It was a moment that didn't announce itself with fanfare but crept up like a quiet whisper that escalates into a loud roar. SZA released 30 for 30, featuring Kendrick Lamar, and if you weren't paying attention, you might have missed the seismic shift before it impacted you. This wasn't just another song added to the endless flow of new releases that hit our devices every Friday. This was something special. This was intentional. It was a collaboration between two of the most influential voices in music, resulting in something that felt more like a heartfelt confession, a moment of reckoning, a reflection for anyone who has ever felt the heavy burden of time. Welcome to Celebrity Rap Life, where the red carpets never roll up and the spotlight never fades. The rewards are legendary. Because in celebrity rap life, every downfall can become a comeback, and every headline tells a deeper story. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a second of what's coming next. California. That's where it all went down. The performance that made people stop scrolling, stop talking, stop everything they were doing just to watch. You know how rare that is these days? When was the last time anything made you actually pause? But there was something about seeing SZA and Kendrick on that stage together, something magnetic and undeniable, like watching lightning decide exactly where it wants to strike. The energy was electric, the kind that makes your skin prickle even through a screen. People who were there said you could feel it in your chest, that bass rumbling through your ribcage, those lyrics cutting through the noise of everyday life and hitting you somewhere deep. The thing about 30 for 30 is that it arrived at a moment when people needed it most. Think about where we all were a year ago. The world was still spinning from everything that had come before, and here we were, trying to figure out what comes next. That's the space this song occupied. It wasn't giving you easy answers or feel-good vibes to help you forget your problems. No, this was the soundtrack for people who were tired of pretending everything was fine, who were ready to look at the truth even when it hurt. SZA has always had that gift, that ability to take the messy, complicated feelings we try to hide and turn them into something beautiful and devastating at the same time. And Kendrick. He's never been one to play it safe, never been the type to give you what you expect when you could have what you need instead. The collaboration itself was something fans had been dreaming about for years. SZA and Kendrick, both coming out of that same creative ecosystem, both pushing boundaries in their own ways, both refusing to be boxed in by what people thought R&B or hip-hop or any genre was supposed to sound like. When word started spreading that they had something cooking together, the anticipation built like pressure in a sealed container. Social media went into overdrive with speculation, theories, leaked snippets that may or may not have been real. Everyone had an opinion about what it would sound like, what it would mean, whether it could possibly live up to the hype that had been building for so long. Then it dropped. No warning, no countdown, just suddenly there in the world, demanding to be heard. The title itself tells you everything and nothing at the same time. 30 for 30. Those numbers carry weight, carry meaning that shifts depending on who's listening and what they're bringing to the moment. For some people, it's about age, about hitting that milestone where you're supposed to have everything figured out, but you're still asking the same questions you were asking at 20. For others, it's about time itself, about looking back at 30 days, 30 moments, 30 decisions that led you to exactly where you are right now. The genius is that it means something different to everyone, but it hits everyone the same way, right in that vulnerable spot we all try to protect. The production on this track is something else entirely. It's sparse but heavy, minimal but massive, the kind of beat that gives the lyrics room to breathe while still creating an atmosphere thick enough to get lost in. You can hear influences from the West Coast sound that shaped both artists, but it's filtered through something entirely modern, entirely their own. The way the bass moves through the song feels like a heartbeat, steady and insistent, while the melody floats above it like smoke, curling and shifting and never quite landing where you expect it to. It's the kind of production that makes you want to close your eyes and just exist inside it for a while. Let it wash over you and take you somewhere else. When SZA's voice comes in, it's like she's speaking directly to you, not performing for a crowd but sitting across from you sharing secrets she's never told anyone else. There's vulnerability in every note, but there's strength there too, the kind that comes from surviving things that should have broken you and deciding to tell the story anyway. She's talking about choices and consequences, about the versions of yourself you leave behind as you grow, about the people you love and the people you lose and the impossible task of trying to hold on to anything in a world that's constantly changing. Her delivery is effortless, natural, like these words have been living inside her for years just waiting for the right moment to come out. Then Kendrick steps in and shifts the entire energy without breaking the flow. His verse is sharp, focused, every word placed exactly where it needs to be for maximum impact. He's painting pictures with his lyrics, telling stories within stories, making connections that your brain doesn't fully process until the third or fourth listen, when suddenly everything clicks into place and you realize just how carefully constructed every line actually is. He's talking about legacy and pressure, about the weight of expectations and the burden of talent, about what it costs to be great when the world is watching your every move and waiting for you to stumble. His voice is urgent, intense, like he's racing against time to get everything out before the moment passes. The chemistry between them is undeniable. You can hear it in the way their voices play off each other, the way one picks up exactly where the other leaves off, creating a conversation that feels intimate even as it's being broadcast to millions. They're not just featuring on each other's track, they're building something together, creating a space where both of their artistic visions can exist simultaneously without one overshadowing the other. That's rare. That takes trust, mutual respect, and a deep understanding of what each person brings to the table. The California performance took everything that made the song powerful and amplified it through live energy and raw presence. Performing in California wasn't just a random choice, it was coming home, returning to the place that shaped both of them as artists and as people. You could feel that connection in every moment, that sense of belonging and understanding that comes from being somewhere that knows you. That's seen your journey from the beginning. The crowd wasn't just an audience, they were witnesses, participants in something bigger than just a concert. The staging was simple but effective, nothing flashy or overproduced, just the music and the artists and the moment. Sometimes that's all you need. When you have substance, you don't need spectacle to hide behind. The lighting cast shadows that moved and shifted like living things, creating an atmosphere that felt almost cinematic, like you were watching a scene from a film about two artists at the peak of their powers. The visuals that played behind them were abstract, dreamlike, giving you impressions and feelings rather than concrete images, letting your mind fill in the details based on what the music was making you feel. Watching SZA perform live is always an experience, but there was something different about this particular night. She moved across the stage with the kind of confidence that comes from knowing exactly who you are and what you're trying to say. No overthinking, no second-guessing, just pure artistic expression. She connected with the audience in a way that made the venue feel small and intimate, even though thousands of people were there. When she hit certain notes, you could feel the collective breath being held, everyone frozen in that moment, suspended between the note that just was and the one that's about to come. Kendrick brought that same intensity he's known for, that laser focus that makes you forget you're watching a performance and feel like you're experiencing something real and unrehearsed. He commanded the stage with the kind of presence that doesn't demand attention because it naturally draws every eye without effort. The way he delivered his verse live added layers that weren't there in the recorded version, emphasis in different places, pauses that let certain lines sink in deeper, ad-libs that felt spontaneous and genuine. The moment when their voices came together was something people are still talking about a year later. There was this perfect synchronization, this meeting of artistic minds that you can't fake or manufacture. It either happens or it doesn't. And when it does happen, when two talents of this caliber find that sweet spot where their energies align, it creates something that transcends the individual parts and becomes something entirely new. The crowd erupted, not just applauding but celebrating, bearing witness to something they knew they'd remember for the rest of their lives. Social media exploded immediately after. Everyone who was there started posting videos, photos, reactions, trying to capture and share what they'd just experienced. People who weren't there started frantically searching for footage, desperate to feel even a fraction of what had happened in that venue. The video clips started circulating, going viral, getting shared millions of times within hours. Think pieces started appearing, critics analyzing every aspect of the performance, fans defending it against anyone who dared suggest it was anything less than perfect. But beyond all the noise and commentary and hot takes, what really mattered was the impact the song had on people's lives. That's the measure of true art, isn't it? Not how many streams it gets or how many awards it wins, but how it makes people feel, how it changes the way they see themselves and their world. 30 for 30 became an anthem for a generation trying to figure out their place in a complicated world. It became the song people played when they needed to feel understood, when they needed to remember they weren't alone in their struggles, when they needed permission to be messy and uncertain and still moving forward. The track sparked conversations about authenticity in music, about vulnerability as strength, about the responsibility artists have to their audiences and to themselves. It reminded people why they fell in love with music in the first place, that feeling of hearing something that speaks directly to your soul, that puts into words what you couldn't articulate yourself. In an industry that often feels manufactured and calculated, 30 for 30 felt genuine, felt necessary, felt like it existed because it had to, not because some algorithm determined it would perform well with certain demographics. Looking back now, 1 year later, it's clear that this wasn't just another release that came and went. This was a cultural moment, a turning point, evidence that real artistry still matters in a world that often seems designed to flatten and homogenize everything. SZA and Kendrick proved that you don't have to compromise your vision to connect with people, that depth and accessibility aren't mutually exclusive, that the most personal art often becomes the most universal. The legacy of that California performance and the song itself continues to ripple outward. New artists cite it as inspiration. Fans still discover it and feel like they've found something that was made specifically for them. It exists now as a marker in time, a reminder of what's possible when talented people come together with something real to say and the courage to say it their way. This story is far from over, and the truth is still unfolding. I want to hear what you think. Drop your take in the comments. And if you don't want to miss the next twist, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a second of what's coming next.